So my name is Patrick. I've been into the filming genre for a couple of years now. At first I wanted to major in computer engineering. Once I began a digital video production class in high school, my passion completely changed. I found a love for filming, and that's why I created my Battle Against Fate movie, the prequel to this one, which I tend not to show. And in this movie as well, I'm an amateur filmmaker, constantly striving to improve myself, make things better, come up with new ideas, and continue my work that way. I've been in the martial arts for about 7.5 years now. I don't count the year when I was a kid because I don't really remember anything much at all that was relatively important to where I got to today. But upon doing martial arts for so long, that's helped me create that sort of action movie I wanted that is different from all the other action movies you see, like the Kung Fu movies with like Donnie Yen or perhaps other movies that you've seen. I wanted to create something that felt more modern but yet flashy and showy enough to keep your attention as well.
I'm a dancer slash programmer, and I've got an interest in editing and things like that. And I share some common interest with my buddy Pat, so that's how I got involved with the film.
What's your name?
My name is Josh, and I play Cicero and Josh, and a few other masked guys, and die a lot.
Small introduction about myself. My name is Brian. I'm 18 years old. I'm going to be 19 soon around the corner. I like video games, martial arts in general, weapons, tactics, things like that. I also really enjoy just general preparedness. I like learning about first aid and things like that. Been in martial arts on and off for about 5 to 6 years now. Known the director since we were very small children. But other than that, I guess I'm fairly normal. Work in retail. That's about it, really.
And then we had some other not so savory people like, we're going to be in the film too. I was like, oh boy, we're not the most role model people, so I was like, this is going to provide a very interesting experience for a cast for a film. So, but no, it was a good experience.
Tell us a little bit about the decision to make a sequel. The first one was for school. Why the decision to make another one after that, even though there was no academic requirement?
Making a sequel was definitely something I came up with a month or two after filming the first movie. I wanted to continue the story, but make it go a lot darker, a lot deeper, and continue on that road, and then have some twists and turns in there. When thinking about it, the first thing I thought of was the beginning and the end, and one or two things in between. And upon writing the story, I've had to make a lot of changes. I added a bunch of stuff in between. I started working my way throughout the whole story, how I want it to begin and end. And then after a year of filming everything, I thought of more ideas to add some stuff to it. After getting feedback from the fans and student showings at the high school and everything. And I wanted something just to be a lot bigger and more epic.
I played Brian, a terrible bunch of out of bad guys. Other than that, I think that's it.
What did you think of the story?
The story, well, it was a story. It was definitely an improvement over the first movie. The first movie was very well ill put together. A lot of things didn't make too much sense. And that's why we don't show that too often. The second movie definitely had a lot more feeling of making sense between why people did the things they did.
I played 4 characters. I played a Red Chrome mask, basically the Red Chrome guy that says he has a black belt, has no skill, has definitely an anger problem. And then I played the Blue Mask Assassin guy. He is more of a Batman voice intimidator. He's a very shallow character. Not much there as far as development or plot-wise. He's just there to get his ass kicked and take orders from Nurgle, but yet keep the high-ranking officials up there. The third guy I played as far as the villains was a Silver Mask guy, the one that killed Crystal in the movie. he didn't really have much as far as character development or anything. I kept him in the back burner in case I wanted to make like some sort of sequel or something. But making a sequel wouldn't be any sort of possibility for quite some time. And then I eventually played myself as well. This story is not based on a true story in any way. Yes, I did get bullied in the past, but it's not something that I portrayed to make it a movie where it's only 5% true and whatnot. No, not at all. I just decided to take all the seriousness I've had and make that into a character. No laughs, no joy. The character in the movie has none of that.
What did I think of the story? As a beginner's film, it's not bad. There's people that go for full-length feature films. There's people that go for short films, and I'll have to give credit where it's due for somebody to come up with a script that lasts an hour for film footage. That's pretty good. Not many beginning directors can just fabricate a story and make it an hour-long thing. They usually shoot for short films, but good start.
The overall story, I thought, was a much bigger success this time around. Of course, there are always little things when I look back on it that I will never like as much as I thought I was, and there are things that I didn't think I was going to like that I liked more than I do now. Some key points that I thought stuck out in my mind more was the fight with Dean, the building fight scene, the final fight. I had a lot of editing issues with that. The choreographing for all those fights turned out a whole lot better than I thought they would be. And then getting custom music for more of the bigger fight scenes like the ones at TMCC. Upon filming everything started turning out better than I thought, and so I wanted better results upon the next time we went filming every single time. Less goofing off, I started taking things a little more seriously, then it took some of the fun out of the way, and thankfully my cast brought some joy back into it for me in that way, because I was becoming too much of a dick of a director that I wasn't realizing. And as far as the story goes though, I like how everything took a darker, deeper tone. You don't realize there was a bigger villain behind everything past Dean until like 2/3 way through the movie. And then I take a break from all the main characters in action to show what that main villain is up to. What is his intentions? Learn a little more about him. And then in the end, you hit the twist of the movie, and that's where you decide going. Where you either like him or hate him, or you love to hate him. And that's what I left for the viewers to decide. And I kind of left it open for a sequel, but I also closed it as well in case I can ever get to it.
Oh, challenges. This is fun. I would have to say the biggest challenge is everybody's schedule, including my own. Usually for filming days, it'd be on a Saturday or something, and maybe 2 days beforehand, he's just like, all right, we're filming Saturday, make sure you get sleep. Nobody would sleep. Everybody would stay up doing their own goddamn thing, playing games, watching anime, myself included. And then we'd all get together with 2-3 hours of sleep, and we'd all be so pissed off at each other. And then somehow we threw together the piece. It actually worked out pretty good. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges with this film, was the scheduling. But well, that was pretty good.
Definitely dealing with just general injuries when you're taking a foot to the stomach and being flipped over someone. Things can go wrong from time to time. You have a lot of martial arts training, well, most of us did, to help prevent that. Josh in particular was feeling constipated one time during filming, and then he took a hard blow to the stomach. He wasn't constipated after that.
Challenges upon filming for me. The biggest challenge I had was the TMCC. The very first scene up there, basically in the courtyard, where it's all circular. Everything in the scene looks really good and put together upon finishing it, but filming it was the hardest part. It took around 3 hours. It should have only taken us an hour, right? But we had some people forget their lines, couldn't take the role seriously, and then above all was the weather. The heat was miserable. I didn't bring any water, and we all just wanted to be done with it, but we wanted to finish what we started. For me, it was basically putting the fake blood in my mouth near the end. It tasted terrible. Even on the bottle it says don't put stuff like that on skin or anything, and yet I went and put it in my mouth anyways. It was terrible. Theatrical blood's supposed to be used for clothing and stuff like that, not for skin contact. And the whole day was pretty miserable. Another challenge upon filming was Basically, when I switched locations without knowing it, I was supposed to pick a scene near the river for the building fight scene for my character. I ended up picking an alleyway on accident because I thought upon Google Maps, they changed stuff throughout the years and I just wasn't up to date. And then after filming everything, which is why the scene has no takedowns, because there's a lot of needles and metal and stuff like that you would not want to be around.
Your pranks, please. You're working with a group of a-holes. Of course there's going to be jokes and pranks pulled on the director himself, on me, on other people. The running joke was me dying everywhere. I died in the first film. I died in the first film a second time too. I played a best friend and a best friend of both characters, and they both died. So that was an interesting running gag. And then there's also a few things like grabbing something to hide something, like the camera battery, just small shit like that. But yeah, I guess there's some running pranks, jokes.
One in particular, the director was kind of in a sour mood that day, so we decided to take our sweet time filming a scene. Most of it was a lot of actor coaching for Rachel so she could perform realistically. And I believe that was cut into the outtakes of the little joke we left in there, just to see if you'd notice it during editing. That's one of the dozens.
As far as jokes go, we've always had a lot. Most of them was on Josh's character. Whenever Josh was on screen playing either of his characters, it was always a big laugh. I mean, I told him to play a crazy freak, a psycho, have fun with it, give him a name, do whatever you want with the character. And he really went out of his way to make that character stand out. Whenever he was on camera, even my camera guy just couldn't stop laughing. A lot of shots we had to put on a tripod, make sure things were steady. Other times we had to refilm stuff because Josh was just too funny. And so we really made a joke out of his character and a lot of jokes around that.
The hardest scene. Okay, so I was playing Cicero, and it was towards the final fight when Cicero was fighting, what was Sean's character? Sim. Yeah. Okay, so it was when I was, when we're fighting Sim, Patrick's fighting Sim, and me and Brian, we both had to lay down dead we both had to lay dead in the grass. Well, while Patrick and Sean were choreographing their fight, I had to take a dump. And so we're laying there for 30 minutes, and then finally they choreographed their fight in some way. Well, I get in the way, and I grab Patrick's leg. Well, you see Sean kick me. He actually kicked me in the stomach, and I was just like, oh! So I had to lay there for another 15 minutes, pinching my cheeks, just trying not to poop myself. So pretty much I had to wait for 45 minutes just to take a crap, and finally after a while, I was able to. So that was the hardest scene for me, personally. Ugh.
The hardest scene... One of the hardest scenes was probably just the entire section in the second part of Team CC where Sean could not remember the lines for the life of him. It took about a dozen takes for just one line, which ended up being like a half hour, 45 minutes for a 10-second scene, which was terrible. It was hot and there was a lot of sitting still and not moving. I'd say that was probably the most difficult one, followed after that by the one where Patrick jumped over a railing, very first part of the scene, and smashed himself right in the groin. That made filming the rest of that much more difficult for obvious reasons.
The hardest scene for me to personally film was the final fight scene. Because not only was it supposed to be a two-part fight, the first time we got there, a bunch of kids showed up at the park. We were there at 10 in the morning thinking, why would kids show up this early? It was completely miserable, and then we decided to choreograph the whole fight, and then we dirtied both of our outfits. I had to go rewash mine. Johnny didn't have time to wash his, and so we had to go back the very next day, so we went 3 hours earlier in the morning just to get the scenes we wanted. So we at first had to choreograph and film the first part of the fight, then where he kills my character by choking him out, and then we had to go film the next part of the fight. And there are a lot of parts during the scene which is why it's fast and slow throughout the whole fight. It's not consistent with any of the other fight scenes as much. Is because there was a lot of elbows, some knees, some stuff we weren't sure we should do at full speed without actually hitting each other really freaking hard and possibly getting a really bad injury. And upon doing stuff like that, it made editing quite difficult. Filming everything was hard as well. I wish I put the whole thing on a tripod. It would have made editing a lot smoother, but the end results end up not looking too bad. It's different from what you see in most action movies at all, if not all of them. And I was quite happy with the results, even though filming everything under the hot zone was definitely not enjoyable. A lot of wind. Wind became an issue. Filming high up on a hill or a mountain, getting a sky view shot, there's a lot of wind problems. Wind's always an issue. The camcorder I have doesn't have a setting to plug a mic into it, which is really why I want to upgrade camcorders for my next filming projects, but it's out of budget right now. Another issue I had was either it would rain on a day I wouldn't want rain, so I had to make a delay for it. There are times where, even though it got hot, I was okay with us being outside, so heat weather wasn't much of a problem, but the biggest problem I had was when I wanted to add scenes the following year, the building fight scene and Nurgle's scene where he stabs his traders and whatnot. The smoke. There was a big fire in California, tons of smoke came over, and I had to delay the next fight for at least 2 months, and it was definitely miserable. I didn't think the weather was going to stay nice for me to get to that filming shot. So weather's always been an issue, but you gotta work your way around it when you don't have a big budget or a huge casting crew.
Overall experience, this film itself started me, and I got to use my video editor a lot better. I started on different video editors, and I found the one I'm actually currently using now, which is a Cyberlink PowerDirector 12. But it really taught me a lot, and got me in the pursuit of the video production field. I'm probably not going to make a career out of it, but it's an interesting hobby. It's nice to be nice to make your own thing, make it look nice and pretty it up and stuff. So I'd say that was probably one of the most rewarding than that, and actually having something to do and producing something and making something. That's also a good feeling too, being part of something instead of just sitting inside and playing games or programming all day. You're actually part of something that's fun. You hang out with your friends. It's always a good time.
It was a bit of a roller coaster. There was a lot of fun scenes, and there was a lot of scenes that were just simply a grind to finish. A couple scenes really lacked a lot of the good martial arts thought that a lot of them had. Some of them didn't flow together too well, but generally it was a positive experience, and we got a lot of good filming done. For every good piece of filming, you have 1 or 2 pieces of bad filming, which is kind of how it goes. And you throw out the bad ones and keep the good ones.
Overall experience, I thought went really well. I think my friends and I had a great time doing everything. A lot of jokes, and all my friends were just nice enough to do all this stuff for me for free. Very kind people. Of course, we had our ups and downs. We got in arguments here or there. Quite miserable at some points, but looking back at it all and knowing all our struggles and the final production put together, I'm pretty sure they're all mostly satisfied with how everything turned out and happy they were able to be a part of it. And I hope some of them were able to think that, hey, maybe he'll contact me for a future project that he has. And I think that'd be pretty fun to do just on our free time and whatnot, even though our lives can definitely get busy. I had a lot of fun with all the fight scenes. I like how most of them are different, and I'd definitely like to do something bigger in the future as far as this trilogy, but we'll see. It's just a 2-movie set so far.
So, the original film. It was made towards the end of Patrick's high school life, and the effects he first used, the punching and kicking effects, they were laughable. But the problem is you're a poor high school student. You can't really pay $3,000 for good special effects. So that was our first thing when we came upon the film, was we need good special effects for the slaps, the punches, and the kicks. So that's when I started adventuring, because my dad bought something called the H4n1, which is it's an audio recorder, really professional grade, because my dad makes guitar videos. So we all set up my dad's house one day, connected a bunch of microphones together, And then we started doing slaps and punches because Patrick and Brian are both in martial arts. So they were able to hit each other, make some decent sound effects. So we recorded that, and then we refined it in Audacity. We actually found that the sound effects worked pretty damn well. So we took a shot in the dark, and apparently the shot hit its mark because we found we got some pretty good effects.
I would be lying if I said editing Final Confrontation had no flaws. There were no struggles. I would be lying if I said that. Editing the whole movie was not only a joy to bring myself the experience, the knowledge, and just have fun with the project overall, but also a massive struggle in quite a few areas. Mainly I'm talking about is like the final fight. Upon editing that, we did a lot of things that were slowed down as we were filming it. And then when we came to post-production, everything turned out to be more hectic than we thought it would. My friend Diego and myself were the only ones who edited this whole movie. I gave him a couple scenes to do. I've done pretty much everything else excluding some special effects. And then obviously I didn't make the music myself. I used royalty-free music for the whole movie as well as custom music from a guy I've known for a decently long time now, Walparian Music. Great guy. Let me go and show you the scene for the final fight here before I get carried away. As you can tell, there's a lot of parts that were slowed down. And not only did it get complicated from there, we added the radial blur for the slowed down parts, and then we sped up a few to try to give it that same balance. The whole fight was choreographed in a way to where you wanted the main hero in this part, the main protagonist, to actually start winning. Sound effects, as you get further down below, this was probably the hardest fight for me to add sound effects in. One of the hardest things for me to do. Not only did it take forever, but figuring out which sound effect I wanted to use where, at what time, and whether I needed a sound effect, if there was a hard hit or not, was... Sound effects are generally time consuming. Now, as you know, there's not a lot of special effects in this movie at all. I had a friend of mine named Mark. He did the video titles. He also did the building explosion, and then he gave me the presets for the blood splatter special effect that I put in myself. And yeah, I did mention music was either royalty free or composed, and well, custom I should say. Another scene that was really hard to edit was the building fight scene where they're fighting in front of the building. It took us quite a long time to film both of those, and then putting them together wasn't too bad, but as we got more and more into editing everything, it wasn't turning out the way I thought at first. I was really struggling, like, do I want to keep everything we filmed? Should I cut it? Will it fit with the music? Does it look well? Is it too long? Does it flow right? And I was debating cutting out part of Brian's fight that we filmed that day, just because I thought it might have dragged out too long or something like that. And then after I decided to put it together and I ran it with the music and put the sound effects in there, took out all the small pauses that were driving me nuts, it actually turned out to be rather well. As you can see here, here's the building fight scene. There's a lot of clips put together, just like the final fight. And not only that, there's also a lot of sound effects. Voiceover, sound effects, the music, everything else flowing together. One thing I was struggling with at first was color correction. Color correction is something that every movie does. What I mainly done is I increased saturation, fiddle with lighting and stuff like that. So if you take off color correction, everything the colors don't pop out as they should. Everything looks too natural. And once you put the color correction on, everything does indeed look quite a bit better. And to me, I feel like that's if it's getting to more and more professional state. I've been working on this movie for almost 2 years. Honestly, as much as I love working on it, I would be quite happy to also be done with it. There are some parts I struggled with. Like there was a nice jump cut here that I just added a cross dissolve right through the middle. And I feel like that was generally needed as well. And we also had a voice dub parts in the movie where we had a lot of wind. Wind was an issue as far as editing, so we voice overed everything throughout the second time of going back and we were working on this project. And I generally wanted everything to be a lot darker So I decided to go with that darker aspect. Add a building explosion, show more of the antagonists, and really get in there as far as the editing phases. There wasn't too much struggles, and editing everything is not too hard as long as you know what you're doing. I mean, I did most of the editing on a computer called Sony Vaio. It was a laptop, had 4 gigabytes of RAM. I edit everything in parts at the time. I don't have that computer anymore, but editing turned out rather well. Of course, that isn't until my computer took a dump on me and wanted to add stuff to it, and then I took everything over to the Mac. Did making Final Confrontation become everything I envisioned it to be? I would have to say yes, it really has. It actually turned out better than I thought it would when it came to editing everything. Of course, there were things I wanted to add after getting critiques and opinions and whatnot, but just striving to improve no matter what video project you work on is really a key meaning to everything. I'm fortunate I had friends that helped me with this project. I hope some will help me with my future projects. I get this question asked a lot. Will I be making a sequel to Final Confrontation? I would really, really, really like to, actually. The ideas I've had for it have been quite up there and over the top, which I'm not afraid to speak of because things can change from now until the day I decide to go film this, if I ever do. I have to make this an if statement because I'm going to need a pretty big budget to make all of this happen. The original Final Confrontation movie didn't have that big of a budget. Most of the money itself went to like special effects and music and stuff like that. Everything else was either on props or feeding the crew that day and easy stuff like that. A bigger, better movie would definitely cost a whole lot more money. Not only would I need a big cast of characters, I would also need, well, filming leases to film in a grocery store or go film in a ghost town and be able to break the windows and stuff like that. And just going out of town is whatever. It would take quite a bit more money in order to make it really happen. And the reason why I say that is because my ideas for the sequel is just so big and so out there. The movie, which let's just say if the movie is made, the story I have for it set down in the ground already before I make changes to it from now until then, is that you continue where you see the main character left off. He's mainly a serious guy. He's taken a lot of shit back then, obviously. And now that since his friend Brian moved away, he's become a very bitter person. He's pessimistic, negative. He doesn't like socializing a lot, and he's not the person we saw in the last movie completely. He's alone, he lives by himself, his little sister is now old enough to move out, because this is easily going to take place 5 or 6 years after the events of the last movie. And now there's a bigger threat going on. A threat that he ignores in the beginning of the movie. The main antagonist is going to be a big guy. 6 feet tall, has to be around that tall, really big and buff, and he has to know how to fight. And this movie is going to be including a lot of weapons. Yeah, guns, knives, bow staffs, and anything you could really think of might be used, actually. It's going to be quite over the top. So being able to film like a fight scene in a park with fake propped weapons and whatnot, it's going to have to get leased for that too. Sure, it wouldn't be until like 5 or 6 years from now is my guess, once I finish college, bank up some money, and then be able to go and film something to that grand of a scale. It would be pretty amazing in my opinion, but at the same time I'm not sure if it'd be completely possible at this moment. So instead I'm working on a comedy movie and then a horror movie that I actually can go out and film. It's hard to go film something so big when you don't have the budget, time, or anything else to really go with it, but I have some sort of idea of what I had in mind for the sequel. It's gonna be big, if I can do it. Anyways, thanks for the support, guys. This is more like a vlog video, I guess, but if you have any questions, send a message or leave a comment. See you later.